My name is Michael Hawthorne. I'm Community Inclusion Manager with Glasgow Council on Alcohol. I also chair the Kinder Stronger Better operational group, and I was previously a volunteer with the service as well. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about what we've kind of done. It has been on the go since about 2019. However, we've had various iterations of it. We've seen it evolve. We're kind of in a new phase with it. So I'm going to talk about what we've previously done, what we're looking to do for the future, what the hopes are, and how we can potentially replicate this in other areas of Scotland. None of what I'm going to say today is going to be earth-shattering. I think it's visually important, and it just highlights, I suppose, some of the additional issues faced by the LGBTQI community when it comes to alcohol and drugs. So one of the visions that I personally have, and hopefully it's something that we can kind of move towards with Kinder Stronger Better, is that we have an LGBT-specific peer support recovery service. Something which, when I've kind of bandied about or sounded people out about, these are some of the responses that we got. Plenty of recovery services. We don't need an LGBT-specific service. Why should we fund this? Which is an interesting one because that itself came from a professional. And why do they need it? That one came out of a recovery community group. And I suppose these are the kind of added levels of stigma that the LGBT community are facing when we're trying to provide additional services for them. Before I kind of go into a little bit further, I am relying on technology working because I'm going to play a video for you. I'll just say as well, this video was made by a member of the Kinder Stronger Better Community Champions project. I will also give you a trigger warning. There is homophobic language in it, but this is the experience of the individual that made the video.
I have heard it all. You're boring. You're no fun when you don't drink. It's traditional, so just have one. Have a real drink. Get wicked on the blue stuff and you're called a poof. And if I opt for the soft stuff, I'm not manly enough. But what is a real drink anyway? They ask me if I'm pregnant, or on medication, or if I'm ill. I am strong enough to say no to alcohol. Every reason is good enough, and if other people think I'm boring, fine, I may be boring, but I am not bored. I have learned to trust myself and not give in to peer pressure. I feel kinder, stronger, and better without a drink tonight or tomorrow. It's time to normalize being sober and say no to peer pressure.
So as I say, that was a video that was made by one of the community champions who was involved with Kinder Stronger Better in one of its former iterations. And I suppose the key thing in that was we were trying to normalise being sober, which for many members of the LGBT community is something that's not normal, in the sense that if you're coming out, the places that you're able to go to, the places you're able to socialise, make those initial connections when you're first newly out, do tend to be on the scene where alcohol is served. So it's difficult for sort of newly out or younger LGBT folk to find these sober spaces, which is what we at GCA and Kinder Stronger Better hope that we can potentially achieve in the future going forward. So some of the reasons for why we want this service. There is research which I've kind of highlighted there as well. I've brought two of these reports along. Both have been done by Glasgow Cali Uni for Scottish Health Action on Alcohol Problems. The second one in 2022 was something that Kinder Stronger Better were actually involved with and part of the focus groups. Both of these reports and the recommendations feed up to Scottish Government, and I'll talk a little bit more about these in just a wee sec. These are also available online if anybody wants to have a look at them. They're on the Kinder Stronger Better website and also Glasgow Cali and SHAP's website as well. So just a little bit about the two reports. Some of the things that came out of the 2015 report were how drinking was a necessity to venture on the gay scene for a lot of folk. When people are out or kind of come to terms with their sexuality or gender identity, they find it really difficult to go into these places without having a drink before they go out. Giving them a little bit of Dutch courage to be able to talk to other members of the community. I know from my own personal experience, I came from Castle Douglas, which I know one person in the room knows, but maybe not everybody does. So Castle Douglas is a town in Dumfries and Galloway with 5,000 people. None of the rest of them when I came out were gay. I moved to Edinburgh. What did I do? Hit the pubs. This is something that's normal and what we see quite a lot. Other things that came out of the 2015 research was there were barriers to accessing existing recovery services. Many made heteronormative assumptions, so lack of knowledge within the services around LGBT issues. We're kind of seeing a lot of that just now around about gender and things, but that in itself is that's a day, never mind another presentation. What else were we kind of looking at in 2015? Some of the existing support groups were seen as not safe or welcoming to the LGBT community. And yes, it did state at the time as well, in particular the trans community. People were going along to, whether it be 12 steps or existing recovery groups, and didn't feel safe in them. And drinking alcohol was seen as an important part of identity construction. So basically, what kind of drink you drank would suggest what your kind of identity was. So there was various different examples of this, with gay men drinking colourful, fruity drinks, and particularly butch lesbians drinking pints to show their identity. And again, I'm not bringing this with any judgment. These are the things that came out of the report. When we look to 2022, we're seeing some of the same things that were coming out of that as well. We're still seeing barriers to accessing services. A lot of this down to lack of knowledge on the part of the services, a lack of understanding, and a fear. We see a big fear for people asking questions around about sexual orientation and gender identity. And I will talk about how we can kind of normalise that, make it part of your policy, make it part of your assessment process, and just give staff the confidence to be asking the questions. I suppose the other key thing that came out of it was that there are different levels of stigma for the LGBT community when accessing any kind of drug or alcohol service. They're overcoming one stigma, and then they're having to then potentially come out in a group or not come out, so they're still hiding their identity. So multiple things going on for them, and feeling that a specific LGBT service would be something that would benefit them. Now, just a kind of bit about what we have done with Kinder, Stronger, Better. As I say, we've been evolving constantly and developing different ideas and looking at how we can kind of move forward in the future. Obviously, as well, COVID played a big part in the work that we were doing and had been doing. So we kind of offered peer support groups and the Community Champions project, which I was part of and kind of started with, which involved training 10 volunteers in alcohol awareness, drug awareness. We worked in partnership with SDF for that as well. What also kind of happened around about that time was the development of the e-learning with SDF, which you can all go and have a look at. It's free to access, and it is an introduction to substance use in the LGBT community. And it's something that, it was Adrian at the time with SDF and David at the time from GCA who they worked on that, completed it, and it's certainly something that's been, as far as I'm aware, has been well accessed and well used, and I would recommend it. Of course I would recommend it. What else have we kind of been doing? So the use of online platforms has been a big thing for us. Not only due to COVID, but it also kind of promotes inclusion for people as well. We find that people are a bit wary of coming along to services for the first time. So it allows a kind of meet and greet option for people where they can kind of get to see people on screen, have that chat, relax a little bit, and have a face that they can then connect with when they come along, a face-to-face group as well. Something that has been really popular just in the sense that we then are kind of getting a a better level of engagement for people and a more meaningful engagement when they actually want to come along a face-to-face group. And the social activities and events, we are always involved with Pride. We're also involved with Pride Outside, which is a sober queer organisation based in Glasgow. And we had a Leap Sports sponsored event, Mindful Movement, which we held, and there's about 25 folk came along to that. So part of what we are offering is sober queer events and spaces for the LGBTQI community. A massive part of what we do has been working in partnership. We've worked closely with SDF, and on the Kinder Stronger Better operational group, we also have the Simon Community, Crossreach, Leap Sports, Glasgow Cali Uni. So key to the work that we are doing is the partnership work. I am a team of one person, and I don't just cover the LGBT work. I work in inclusion around women, faith-based groups. So it's key that we have other people that are able to feed into this as well and be able to kind of offer space, offer staff time, access to technology. We've kind of touched on that before. Training exchange is key as well. In the times of funding being a struggle for a lot of people, training can come at a cost. We kind of use our partnerships to be able to swap training with other organisations, and we're able to offer training to them as well. Round about the LGBT stuff, but certainly around about alcohol awareness and things like that as well. And the last one there is help with accessing local and national funding options. One of the good things about working in partnership some of the time is that you can kind of club together and look at applying for bigger pots of money. Funding, we all know, is a bit of a struggle sometimes, but if you kind of have that support of other partners as well, you can be looking at how you can get sort of bigger pots of funding out there as well. So obviously what the abstract that I kind of submitted to SDF was looking at what potentially you could do as organisations to replicate the work that we do at Kinder Stronger Better. Obviously we are happy to support in that any kind of way. One of the first things that we have kind of done within GCA was a needs assessment, but also alongside it we did a qualities impact assessment of all the services within GCA, looked at where our gaps were, what we potentially needed to do to improve that. Where we were not getting people in, it's already saying that we are an organisation that accepts everybody, but it's about looking at, are we actually getting people through the door? LGBT awareness training is something that has been key. We have offered different stages of that for different staff members. We obviously helped design an LGBT awareness training. We have done, the entire staff team have been trained by LGBT Youth Scotland using their e-learning as well. We've had THT training, Terms and Trust, so specific training around about chemsex and things like that. Just to increase the knowledge of the staff and be able to have a little bit more confidence when people are asking questions. And again, this sort of would come out to your organisations as well. It is key to be able to ask the questions, to be able to know who your client base are, and if you're not reaching folk, to look at how you can potentially do that. Tailored service design, again, this is not something that everybody will be able to do, but it's something that we, obviously with the project that I manage, is looking at, I keep saying the project I manage myself, but anyway, it's about having a service that fits the service user's needs, or your clients, participants. Key to it is obviously funding and resourcing. However, key for that is, for us, is training volunteers, having a volunteer pathway where participants can move into becoming volunteers, get some meaningful training, get training that they want to take part in, to be able to then provide groups, provide outreach, whatever it might be that's kind of needed for the service to run. Outreach and marketing has been key, and everybody here will use social media as part of their organisations, and it's something that helps us engage with people that we wouldn't ordinarily engage with. And it's certainly something that when I worked in Dumfries and Galloway that we used a lot. It might not have a lot of people, but geographically you can't be reaching everyone down there. Same for my role, it's citywide in Glasgow. I can't be everywhere at the same time, so it's about providing that kind of online outreach as well. In Evaluate and Evolve, this is something we certainly do, and I think probably everybody in the room does. It's about making sure that you're asking the questions, are we doing the right thing? What can we change? What does the service need to look like? This is, I suppose, a takeaway for everybody in the room, and just, I suppose, my take on a takeaway. Recording equalities data is something that's key, and I guess that most people will be, but I would also ask if everybody is recording sexual orientation and gender identity. I know from personal experience and going into some organisations, there is a fear still around about that. And it's about, I suppose, moving past that and being able to actually understand. If you don't have that information, why don't you have it? And why not just have it? Why not ask the question? It allows you to kind of see any gaps as well, identify them, and also training needs if you need it. Forms, policies and procedures, again, it kind of links into recording the data. If it's not on your forms, I suppose, why is it not? Should it be there? Is it something you can do as an organisation? And my last point is, always ask, don't assume. And this has different levels to it. Don't assume that you know someone's gender identity or sexual orientation just by looking at them. People want you to ask the questions. They want you to be able to accept, I was going to say understand. It's not about us understanding someone's sexual orientation or gender identity. It's about accepting them as a person. And don't assume that gender identity or sexual orientation is the reason for alcohol or substance use. It is about asking again and just being clear why someone is wanting to access your service.